I'm just leaving an uncle's house. He's an elder man, in his 70s. Spent a little time with him, of course. You know, gotta wear the mask and gloves. You gotta, you know, damn near have plastic in between us. No hugging. Just, I know me going over there makes a difference, you know? And we got into this discussion, which I try not to get into this discussion because we have a man in his 70s that is so locked into the system, but he won't stop talking about Trump. Non-stop. Trump, 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 Trump. Bashing Trump. Bashing Trump. And normally, I can just take it for, you know, a 45-minute visit. I could take it, you know, let him get that off, and I go, wow, yeah, I know. But today I was just like, I'm only going to tell you this because I love you. But your hooks are so deeply locked into this system. And I really want you to understand, and I say this respectfully, but you cannot, I just got distracted by that damn taco stand over there. That's one of my favorite taco spots. But I'm supposed to be, you know, not trying to be fat forever, so they keep it pushing. So I'm saying, like, listen, you know, you have, he's trying to, all right, here's what I did. I started the conversation. You see, when you're dealing with people that are locked into the system, they're not going to change their mindsets. You know, especially when you have them really old, it's sometimes best to just let them live out their reality. Why poke the bear? You know, like, let the bear just hibernate. And I normally do that, but today I just had to just say something, and it ended out well. There was no ill will, ill feelings, and he was appreciative, even though he kind of like went into like these common statements that you always hear. It's like a program. Hey, I should drive by Elmhurst Hospital. Nah, there's nothing popping over there. You know, we all know this is just, you know, only popping when the news is running. I'm going to go see my younger brother. He's in some sort of program on the Lower East Side, and he asked me, could I drop off a couple of dollars for him? Because I guess they, you know, they get to go to the store and stuff like that. I don't know. But that's where I'm off to now. So we'll just take this ride together, and I'll just get this off my chest. I was looking to play something that I was listening to, that I was sent to by a friend of mine, and we'll get to that in a second. But let me just get this off my chest. We have a situation where I'm now explaining to this person, or whenever you're trying to wake somebody up, you got to be careful, because they're just people, like I said, you don't want to wake the sleeping bear, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. He's so I told him, I said, what about when Trump told the people that they can wash out their lungs and, you know, just put the UV lights inside their bodies and stuff? And he goes, yeah, you see, he's sold this and he's sold that, and he just doesn't care about the people. You see the horrible things he says to people. And I was just like, so you don't think he was just reading the teleprompter when he said that? You think this was his own thought? And he says, no, of course he was reading the teleprompter. And I said, and it took me a couple of tries because he kept cutting me off. And I was wound up able to say, well, who wrote that on the teleprompter? And he says, oh yeah, I know, right? He doesn't even care about that. And I was like, no. I said, I think you're giving Trump too much credit right now. You're so angry with this man, and you have all these reasons to be angry about it. But my question to you is, who wrote it on the teleprompter? So finally, he was able to stop and take a moment and think about that. And he said, you're right. Who wrote that? And I was just like, the power structure wrote that. And he was like, what do you mean the power structure wrote that? And I says, the people that are in charge of the puppet. Because I used to say that the presidency is a puppet position back in 2016 when I first woke up, and when the tint was taking off of my eyes. I still got a lot of levels, a lot of layers of tint. This is only a 0.5% that I'm on. And I guess I was always thinking at a 35%. So I no longer think at a 35%. And I'm talking about 35% tint on your cars. It's a reference that I'm actually for the first time using. So I will have to like tweak that and critique that, but I like that we're on this journey together of understanding. A lot of the things that I say is not something that I've always believed in or argued. It's a lot of it is just, taking that moment and pondering on the thought and intellectualizing or just pondering that thought is what I like to do. I'm not considered like to be a smart man. I don't want to be, oh, he's so smart. No, it's not that I'm smart. It's just that I'm an intellectual. I like to break it down and get deep into it and spend time on a thought, and really think about it deeply. So, my tint, that's my brother right there. I'll deal with that later. I'll just pop up on him. Here he is. So, that 35% tint analogy is going to be worked on, and we'll see how it works. But these are percentages that are opening up in the mind. Like I always say that new eyes realize, and with these new eyes, I can realize and see things and think about them and dwell on them and kind of like come now to you with these ideas and these thoughts. So what I wanted to say was that I hope he doesn't call me back to back like this. This is not good, because I'm pressing the phone in a way where he knows I can't talk. So what was I going to say? Yeah, so my, these, the tint is slowly starting to get clearer, and I was riding around for most of my life with these blinders for the most part, and not only blinders, just could not see the forest for the trees, and I'm explaining to my family, I'm like, listen, what you have to understand is just that if somebody else is writing this onto a teleprompter in which he's reading it, maybe this is the people that are on the sides where they're trying to awaken people. It's possible that this was some sort of message for the very smart people that are gonna think past their televisions and what their TVs are telling them. So what I said was, how can we not question who's writing the teleprompter? And I would argue that it's the power structure. And in that power structure, it allows people opportunities to wake up. We're given opportunities to wake up. And I think that talking about the UV lights in the body and the scrubbing of the lungs and whatever it is that he had said was a way for us to have the conversation about the teleprompter and the power structure and who wrote this and who's in charge. You know, and I would argue that the people that are in charge have their own sense of humor, and maybe there are rules to some degree where they have to give us, what do they have to give us? They have to give us clues. Like we're in some sort of a escape room, and in this escape room, you know, what is in front of you doesn't always, it can help you. So I wound up kind of like, I was able to have like a moment, and he was able to think outside of his idea, where he said, well, at the end of all this, what do you think is going to happen? And that's when I got to tell him what I love to tell people when I'm having these kind of discussions. And that is, I can't take you to the last page of the book. I don't know what's going to happen. I said, but I know that something ain't right. And he's also, or at least he used to be a really, really amazing chef. And I wound up using a food analogy with him. I said, do you ever like get a piece of meat out of the fridge, season it up, or maybe you had it marinating and you cook it and it looks beautiful, it smells good, but in the back of your mind you keep asking yourself, did I have it in the refrigerator one day too long? You know, because most people like to marinate stuff for, let's say, 2 days. The third day is usually like a half a day. That's when you're getting it on the fire. Whereas, you know, maybe it's now past the third day. You know, it's like now it's a little late. It's not 6 in the evening or 7 in the evening. It's more like 10, and you're cooking a late dinner, and you now question whether or not that meat was in there too long. So now when you cut into it and you take that first bite, you say, oh, it tastes good. It tastes good. Everything is fine. And then you cut that second piece, but then you kind of smell it, and in your mind you kind of think maybe you smell something that is not right with the meat. But then you take the second bite, and then you cut the third piece, and then you say, you know what, I'm just gonna dump this. Because you're not sure anymore whether it's just in your head and you can't shake the thought off, or is it truly, is it bad and you might get a little sick? You don't want a stomach ache. So as soon as I said that, he was like, so that's what you're saying? I said, exactly. I says, if something ain't right, something ain't right. It doesn't matter. We don't have to know what's going to happen at the end of this. All we have to know is that here right now, this ain't right. And it's time for us to wonder and try to figure out, like, it's time to wake up. And mind you, these are people that think they woke, that I'm talking to, you know, that have traveled the world to some degree, who has made money in America and has aged. And now you got some guy talking about how everything you think you know has possibly been a lie. So that's how that conversation went, you know, where I was able to get him to think at least 2 different times, and that analogy with the food, how it just wasn't right, it resonated with him. So now I'm going to play this doctor. This is like doctor number 50 that's come forward. And this doctor is, I like him. Let's see what he got to say. And it's on the Brian Cook channel. The title is New York City Doctor Claims COVID-19 is not what they say it is, I believe. And by the way, COVID-19 could now be referred to as the 19 being the 19 years since September 11th. So check this out.
This is Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel, ER and critical care doctor from New York City. 9 days ago, I opened an intensive care unit to care for the sickest COVID-positive patients in this city. In these 9
and he's reading from a script, you can see that.
days, I have seen things I have never seen before. In treating these patients, I have witnessed medical phenomenon that just don't make sense in the context of treating a disease that is supposed to be a viral pneumonia. 9 days ago, I presumed I was opening an intensive care unit to treat patients with a virus causing a pneumonia that was ravaging lungs across the world, starting out as something mild, a cough, a sore throat, and progressively increasing in severity until ultimately ending in something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. This is the paradigm that every hospital in the country is.
That's what our guy from the Bronx, Fred the Godson, they wrote down for him, you know, with the coronavirus.
Working under. This is the disease, ARDS, that every hospital is preparing to treat. And this is the disease, ARDS, for which in the next 2 to 6 weeks, 100,000 Americans might be put on a ventilator. And yet, everything I've seen in the last 9 days, all the things that just don't make sense, the patients I'm seeing in front of me, the lungs I'm trying to improve, have led me to believe that COVID-19 is not this disease, and that we are operating under a medical paradigm that is untrue. In short, I believe we are treating the wrong disease, and I fear that this misguided treatment will lead to a tremendous amount of harm to a great number of people in a very short time. As New York City appears to be about 10 days ahead of the country, I feel compelled to get this information out. COVID-19 lung disease, as far as I can see, is not a pneumonia and should not be treated as one. Rather, it appears as if some kind of viral-induced disease, most resembling high-altitude sickness. It is as if tens of thousands of my fellow New Yorkers are on a plane at 30,000 feet and the cabin pressure is slowly being let out. These patients are slowly being starved of oxygen. I have seen patients dependent on oxygen take off their oxygen and quickly progress through a state of anxiety and emotional distress and eventually get blue in the face. And while they look like patients absolutely on the brink of death, they do not look like patients dying of pneumonia. I have never been a mountain climber, and I do not know the conditions at base camp below the highest peaks in the world. But I suspect that the patients I'm seeing in front of
my brother again,
without time to acclimate. I don't know the final answer of this disease, but I'm quite sure that a ventilator is not it. That is not to say that we don't need ventilators. We absolutely need them. They are the only way at this time that we're able to give a little more oxygen to patients who need it. But when we treat people with ARDS, we typically use ventilators to treat what's called respiratory failure. That is, we use the ventilator to do the work that the patient's muscles can no longer do because they're too tired to do it. These patients' muscles work fine. I fear that if we're using a false paradigm to treat a new disease, that the method that we program the ventilator, one based on a notion of respiratory failure as opposed to oxygen failure, that this method, and there are a great many number of methods we can use with the ventilator, but this method being widely adopted at this very moment in every hospital in the country, which aims to increase pressure on the lungs in order to open them up, is actually doing more harm than good, and that the pressure we are providing to lungs, we may be providing to lungs that cannot stand it, that cannot take it, and that the ARDS that we are seeing, that the whole world is seeing, may be nothing more than lung injury caused by the ventilator. Now, I don't know the final answer to this disease. I do sense that we will have to use ventilators. We will have to use a great many number of ventilators, and we need a great many number of ventilators, but I sense that we can use them in a much safer way. And a much safer method. That safer method challenges long-held dogmatic beliefs within the medical community and among lung specialists, which will not be easy to overcome. But I really believe that they must be overcome. There are hundreds of thousands of lungs in this country at risk, and the time to overcome them is now. I am confident that if those of us that work bedside with these patients, those of us who are witnessing the things that we have never seen before, despite the many years we have worked and the thousands of patients and diseases we have seen, if we can effectively communicate this to all those that are so important but who are not bedside, the researchers, the administrators, those who procure our resources and make our protocols, the politicians, our own government, if we are able to convince them that this is a disease that is different than anything we have ever seen, I am confident that an answer can be found, that effective treatment can be discovered, and that a plan to disseminate that treatment can be rapidly deployed, and that tens of thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of lives and lungs will be protected. The time for this is now. We are staring into a future in which a great many of our fellow Americans are going to suffer, not to mention people all around the world. For those who will not suffer directly from this disease, from the terrible human cost of this disease, for those who will not lose a family member or a friend, and there will be a great many number of people who will lose those close to them. But for those who don't, they are still going to suffer from the great economic cost of COVID-19. We are all involved in this future. So I urge you, for those of us, if you are out there, for those who work bedside, I urge you to speak up. We can change this. I thank you all for listening. Please spread the message and stay safe.
Hello.
So, we got a doctor who's saying that all the situations that he sees with the lungs is looking like altitude sickness. And this is something that a buddy of mine that works at Harlem Hospital was saying, that it looks like altitude sickness because he has climbed, you know, those Everest kind of situations. And then he was saying that it was looking like malaria. Then everybody was running with the malaria thing, you know, getting anyway, whatever that drug is, I can't remember at the moment. But anyway, so that we need to start treating this a certain kind of way. You know how they just keep screaming, ventilator, ventilator, ventilator. You put somebody in a ventilator who is suffering from altitude sickness, you know, they're going to die. So it's time for us to wake up to the reality that a doctor would not be going against the grain, against the system, the way he's doing this, unless this is just something deep down in his heart that he just knows ain't right. He knows that he can't even live with himself. You see, that's what humanity is all about. Humanity is about the love that we have for each other. Even though they try to make us believe that we don't have enough love for each other, that, you know, we're out to deceive each other and rob each other, and that, you know, people will do anything for a buck. Not everybody is like that. There's a group of people that understands that to truly be an American, you have to fight tyranny. And if you're not fighting tyranny, then it's possible that you're locked in and hooked into the system. I would argue that. I would argue that you are locked into the system, and it's a shame. And you're not doing yourself or your family any good. Because tyranny is at our door. It's at our midst. I just don't want to press this button down there. Last couple of times when I've done that, it actually turns off. So, to truly be an American is about fighting tyranny, okay? And tyranny, if we think about words like tyranny, we have to understand that these are words that go way, way, way back. These are words that go so far back that we can actually say it goes to the beginning. There's always been a group of people that want to control the masses. It's just something about that, you know. There's just some people that really truly need that. It's probably nepotism. They taught this from their fathers, you know. They're taught evil. because we're truly wonderful, loving, amazing people. Humanity is. Despite what the TV shows tell you, despite what they say, humanity is amazing, loving, caring. This is where he's at. I believe this is where he's at. Nope, that's not where he's at. Maybe he's this block. You know, and I've traveled this country and I've met a lot of people in this country. And people in this country will give you their shirt off their back. It's the legislation that's really, truly held people down in such a hard... What avenue is this? Maybe I'm in the wrong avenue. Yeah, I'm in the wrong avenue. He's Avenue D. Right now I'm in Alphabet City. They call this Alphabet City. A, B, C, D Avenue. Very notorious neighborhoods. Let me give you back. That was him again. He's stressed. Come on, big boy. Please help your brother out. I got you. I got you. Avenue D. If he's Avenue D, that's gotta be it. 11th, 10th. I think this is the program right here. I don't know. I see a lot of people. I'll take you to all the hoods, it looks like, right? I think this is it. Okay, the next block, next block. Oh, yeah. It's the next block. It's this building to the right. Look at this. Beautiful building coming up, 101. They probably spent $100 million to make this, just to keep people in the programs. See, does he see me? The Lower East Side Girls Club. No, this is not it. I'm bugging. The Rite Aid. I gotta turn around. But let me just finish my point. These people that are in charge are a very small group of people. And we're all being manipulated. Just because you can come up with 100 times that Trump has lied, doesn't mean that somebody else can't come up with 100 times Trump's didn't lie. It's all about what you're watching on TV will control your brain and your mindset. Your brain and your mindset will be controlled. Could this be it? Yeah, I think this is it. Yep, this is it. Recovery Center. I think that sorry. My brother is inside of here. And I'm coming by to give him a couple of dollars.
Inside?
Yeah, inside there.
You have the office over there. Look, you can park over here, knock on the door of the guy who's in charge and tell him the name of your brother.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I thought these guys were in the program. I think these are cab drivers just hanging out, waiting for a call. I think I see him sitting at the desk over there. I need to get some change though. Oh no, I got it. I don't want to go too crazy. Bam. Give him too much, he might not come back. He gonna be like, you know what? I'm out of here. I ain't gonna take this no more. Thank you for watching. If you got anything out of this video, don't forget the Cash App is $ Elvis Rosenberg, and so is the Venmo. So if you are so inclined to want to go value for value, you know, you were able to think, you were able to say, wow, you know, you found yourself intrigued by any of this, enlightened by any of this. Do you feel like you've learned something from this? Were you entertained by just the drive in itself? Then I would implore you to hit the Cash App, hit the Venmo account. You are appreciated, and I hope I gave you something to think about. I'm gonna go inside and hook my brother up. Nah, it's not a cut word. You are appreciated.